Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, trash, specifically vintage trash. It's my week 2 Garb August wrap up. Okay, so firstly, wanted to apologise for being very behind on watching people's Garb August videos and very behind on replying to comments as well. So I've actually been out of the country for the last 5 days. Went on holiday with my family to Iceland, which was absolutely lovely, absolutely fantastic. I put some photos on the community tab, following feedback on those photos, I am going to do a short travel vlog type video as well, because the landscape there was just stunning. I mean, just really amazing, like nothing I've ever seen before. So yes, had a very pleasant and enjoyable and fascinating holiday. I had a load of videos scheduled while I was away, so those have gone up and hopefully people have enjoyed those. So we came back day before yesterday, got back late, and we came back with some fridge magnets, and my wife got some nice Icelandic knitwear, so they have lots of sheep in Iceland, so she got some Icelandic knitwear, and my son and I discovered yesterday afternoon that we'd also come back with COVID, so if this video is more rambly and croaky than normal, I apologise because I'm feeling absolutely crap. I've got one more pre-recorded video which is due to go up on Monday, which is already a lie, it turns out. So it's a book haul video where I haul, I think, just 6 books, and I posed the question: is this the last Garb August book haul? In the middle of the night last night when I couldn't sleep, and after watching one of a bookish knitter's videos, so her Trashy Books tag video, I immediately bought 2 Harlequin category romances online. So I've already made a lie of that video, but that video will go up on Monday. I'm filming this Saturday video now. We'll see how it goes. My brain isn't working at all, and I'm going to try and film a Sunday Bollocks video, and then we'll see after that. And there may be less videos than normal in the week ahead because I'm just not functioning at all. Fortunately, my illness has not prevented me from reading trashy books. In fact, yesterday, when basically all I did was flop around all day, I managed to read 3 books, all of which were very short and very trashy, but still I thought that was quite impressive. So normal format for this weekly video, I'll talk about what I've been reading in the last week. I will talk about what's been on the channel in the last week, and I won't really talk about what's going to be on the channel in the next week because, as I've already said, I don't really know if I'm going to be able to do anything. So yeah, we shall see. But yeah, certainly this COVID business is no joke. I had it right at the start of the pandemic, at least I think that's what it was. Obviously you couldn't get tested back then, and was kind of knocked out for 2 weeks and couldn't read at all during that 2 weeks. I really struggled to read. This time obviously you can test, so I did the test yesterday afternoon, and it immediately came up with that second line. And it hasn't impacted, as I say, it hasn't impacted my ability to read, but I just feel washed out with it. I'm very glad that I've had all the vaccines, because God knows how I'd feel if I hadn't. Right, so let's talk about what I've been reading. So, on the plane out to Iceland, and I didn't manage to read all of it either at the airport or on the plane, I read Airport 77 by Michael Scheff and David Spector, which was quite entertaining. I mean, it's a novelisation of an airplane disaster movie. Sorry, my mouth isn't working as well as my brain not working. So yes, a novelisation of Airport 77, the airplane disaster movie, and it was fun. So it's a bit of a weird setup in that there's this super rich guy who has decided he's going to donate all of this art he's got to, like, the people, to America, and he's setting up this museum, this art museum, which will be free for everyone to go to, and he decides that he's going to fly all the artwork there in this Boeing 747 he's got, which has been like kitted out to be the most luxurious thing ever, and has got like a library in it and a piano bar and all sorts of nonsense. So I think maybe they did it partly just to be able to limit the number of characters. So you just get a very limited number of characters in this book, unlike previous disaster movies like this, where you had a whole plane full of people. So they come up with quite a contrived way to limit the number of people. And as you can probably tell from the cover, the plane sinks. So the plane gets hijacked basically by some people who are trying to steal the art, and they're not very good at flying planes, and they crash it into the sea, and then people have to get rescued from the sea. So it was exactly the kind of thing you'd expect from a book like this. It was fairly light. It's interesting in the novel was written by Michael Scheff and David Spector, who also wrote the screenplay for the movie. So it's reasonably unusual. And yeah, it was fun, and reading it on the plane was a bit of a laugh as well. But yeah, but certainly not a fantastic book, but quite entertaining. After that, while I was on holiday, I read The Adventurers by Harold Robbins. So I read that on my Kindle. This is like a big 700-page book about a variety of characters. So it starts in, I think, like the 30s, or maybe in the 20s. And it's about this variety of characters. One is from South America, from a country called Cortiguay. So this made-up country, and it's a country that's always in kind of conflict. And as a very young boy, he sees his he sees like the rebel troops come in and kind of lay siege to the village he's in, and commit mass rape and murder and things like that. And it kind of has a lasting impact on him. There's also a French character and a Russian character who Dax, who's the main guy, meets when he's at school. And it's really about their lives and the lives of various women they know and various other guys they know through the following decades, up to and after the Second World War. And it was fine. It had some really good set pieces. Some very memorable bits. Dax, the main guy, was a really, he was a bit of a bastard, to be honest with you, but he was quite a strong character, so he was quite enjoyable to read. It was fine, but it was 700 pages long, and it definitely didn't need to be 700 pages long. So I did struggle to kind of keep track of all the characters and things like that at times. But yeah, it was quite entertaining. It was a 3-star read, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the previous Harold Robbins book I read in the run-up to Go Up August, which was 59 Park Avenue. Is it 59? I think it was 59. 59 Park Avenue, which I enjoyed more. But this was still pretty good. I think the problem with it is, compared to 59 Park Avenue, is just the sheer number of characters. 59 Park Avenue was much more focused and it was easier to follow as a result, whereas this one, it felt like he was spreading himself a little bit thin maybe. But it was still quite entertaining, and as I say, some definitely tons of sex and tons of violence. So it was quite interesting from that perspective, and I think it was quite, it was kind of almost notorious in its day because of the explicitness of it. So yeah, and entertaining enough read. I also read on my Kindle, so I just took the airport book and my Kindle on holiday. So I finished The Adventurers yesterday morning. I also read alongside that, because I was getting a bit bogged down in it and I fancied reading something a bit lighter. I read a book called Shark Fighter by, originally published under the name Nicolas Brady, but by a guy called Len Levinson. Although I think Len Levinson was not his real name either, who wrote loads of kind of trashy pop kind of type stuff in like the kind of 60s, 70s and 80s. And this was just, the concept of this is just phenomenal, which is that this guy who's he's kind of a bit of a beach bum, but he makes his money hunting sharks for meat, and he gets, through a reasonably contrived set of events, gets paid to fight 2 sharks in a fish tank in a televised event that the organisers think is going to make them loads of money. So he has to fight a great white shark and a hammerhead in a swimming pool with just a spear gun. So it was, that concept is just so fantastically brilliant. It obviously was published in the wake of the success of Jaws. I think it came out kind of mid-70s. And Jaws is referenced a number of times in the book. In fact, they deliberately choose the great white as one of the sharks because of the fact that it's gained so much notoriety because of Jaws. So yeah, it was a fun book. There was lots of shark fighting. There was loads of sex. So he was a dirty bastard. This guy slept with all sorts of women in it. There was lots of kind of grizzled smoking of Lucky Strikes and drinking of rum and things like that. But it was it really was quite entertaining. There's also, so it's set in this small Caribbean island, which is kind of got its own government. There was also like a whole load of stuff about a revolution going on as well. So yeah, there was quite a lot going on in quite a short book. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So the books I read yesterday then in my sprint through a load of trashy books yesterday were Go Ask Alice by Beatrice Sparks, which was the Berthier book tag choice for this month. So this was published in, when was it published? 1971. Still claims to be by Anonymous, although that was something that was debunked, I think, fairly quickly after it came out. So the fact they're still claiming it's a true story, I think, is pretty disgraceful. So it's the supposedly true diary of a 15-year-old American girl who gets involved in like drugs and prostitution, basically. It was, reading it knowing that it wasn't actually written by a 15-year-old girl, was actually written by this middle-aged psychiatrist, I think she was, or counsellor. I mean, God knows how anybody was taking it, because it's so obviously not written by a teenager. The language in it is just ludicrous. And the whole thing is just preposterous. There's a bit where... so most of it is written as a diary. So it starts out with her having been given this diary and going, oh, I'm really excited about keeping this diary. But then there's a bit when she's at a really low ebb where she's kind of on the streets and stuff. And there's like a kind of footnote saying, the next few sections were all just written on scraps of paper and, the back, magazines and things like that. But somehow they've managed to collect them all and publish them in this diary. So yeah, it was just bad, but I did enjoy it. There's something so trashy about stuff that is like really aggressively preachy to teenagers in particular, that I do find quite enjoyable in a sort of kitschy, campy sort of a way. It's like the old movie Reefer Madness. Its take on drug culture and teenage life is so completely off the mark. That it was quite an entertaining read, and as I say, a lot of the kind of language in it and things like that is just preposterous. But yeah, I've read it in a couple of hours and did quite enjoy it. After that, I read something completely different. So this is quite interesting. So this is Women's Barracks by Tereska Torres, which is a French book. Originally published in France in... I can't tell because they've got the date in Roman numerals. I can never remember how to read those. In the 50s, I believe. And then translated and published in the States and the UK, and this is a vintage UK edition. Very much, kind of pushing it as a kind of saucy book about lesbianism. So one of the original kind of lesbian pulp books. And this edition starts with this page here, where it talks about the fact that it was that someone in Minnesota was tried for selling indecent literature, for selling a copy of this book, and the conclusion of the court was that that this kind of book should be allowed to be be available to people. And what's interesting about it is, well, two things. So firstly, it's not nearly as trashy as it looks. It's actually quite a sweet, almost wistful at times book it's about this young, a group of young French women who are enrolled in the French army and end up in England. And just about their lives and the people they meet and their experience of the war. So it starts at the beginning of the war and goes through to the end of the war. And it was actually quite a nice description of these women and their friendships. where the notoriety of the book comes in, and no doubt this is why it sold 3 million copies, it says there on the cover, is that there are a number of lesbian relationships that happen between the women, particularly between kind of older, more world weary women and the younger women, through the course of their friendship. So there's quite a lot, not explicit description of lesbian sex or anything like that, but there's a lot of discussion of that in the book, which I think was, it was very much pushed and advertised as being a saucy book about lesbians, and it's not that at all. So I thought that was interesting. So I think it's actually a very well-intentioned book, but it was marketed as trash. But I don't think it's trash. I think it's better than trash. That said, one of the things that is quite kind of glaring in it is the fact that the lesbian sections or the lesbian relationships are very much what's the word I'm looking for? They're portrayed as happening because the women have no alternative, because they can't, there just aren't men for them to get into relationships with, and when men do become available, they are almost immediately preferred to female partners. So it certainly pushes traditional. Whilst it is a book about lesbianism, it certainly pushes traditional heterosexual relationships as being the real desire for women. So it's not as it's certainly not groundbreaking. Or as groundbreaking as it might have been in that respect. But it was still an entertaining read. It took me a couple of hours, 2-3 hours to read it. I think it's an interesting book because of its kind of place in popular culture to an extent, although it's not one that's so well known nowadays. But yeah, it was good. And then after that, I read this book, Witch by Jane Harman, which I was made aware of by A Yard of Books, and I really recommend you should check out his channel because it's brilliant. He's just started it. He hasn't got very many subscribers. I'll try and remember to put a link in the description to it. His channel is really interesting. So he's doing a bit of Garborga stuff, but the reason his channel is called A Yard of Books is because he's bought a yard of random hardback books which are being sold as kind of shabby decor. And not sold without with no intention that the buyer would read them, and he is reading them. So I think it's a fantastic idea for a channel. So he did a video about this and another book called Wham, which I haven't been able to get hold of. His video, I might do a video on this and Women's Barracks because I think they are both quite interesting but very different. But yeah, his video on Witch and Wham is fascinating, but really worth checking out. So anyway, Witch stands for We Intend to Create Havoc. The book claims to be by Jane Harman. It's actually by Terry Harknett, who also wrote under the pen name George G. Gilman the Edge books, which I love. This is a very bizarre book about a movement of women, the Witch movement, and Witch stands for We Intend to Create Havoc. Who are basically fighting for women's rights. So I've talked on the channel before about how trashy books often are written in response or published in response to public concerns, and this I think was very much published in response to public concerns about women's liberation, about women fighting for equal rights. So this, it's just ludicrous what happens in this book. So yeah, this organisation of women, kind of try and take over by almost by violent means. Men are degraded by them, and it ends in like a massive kind of battle at the end. But it was interesting, and it was quite entertaining. And Harknett is a good enough writer that he can just about pull it off. So yeah, that was very entertaining, but quite weird, just really quite weird. And then I've just finished this morning, so I started this yesterday. Nick Carter, The Judas Spy, which I think is book 33 in the Nick Carter Killmaster series. So this has Nick Carter going to Indonesia and fighting Chinese communists and who are kind of working with Indonesian terrorists. It was really trashy. There's a really good scene right at the start involving a submarine and a crocodile, which is pretty cool. And then it's mostly like plot and sex for like most of the rest of the book until the final 25% or so, where it really kicks into gear and there's tons of action, and the action's pretty well written. I've got no idea who actually wrote this one, because the Nick Carter books, and they never tell you on the cover who wrote them, and I didn't think to Google it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy it, and certainly the last 25%, the action in the last 25% is really good. What did abuse me was there's a blurb on the back from the New York Times. And you normally expect with blurbs on the back of books for them to talk about the qualities of the books, and whether say it's a good book, like it's really suspenseful, or it's beautifully written or whatever. This one just talks about the sex of the book. So it says, Nick Carter loves women. He doesn't just love sex; he enjoys it enormously. But he really loves women. He prefers to like the ones he goes to bed with, and he does not keep eager women waiting. So yeah, there is a lot of sex in this book. Not particularly explicit, but there is a lot of sex. Nick Carter does put it about a bit. But yeah, it was an entertaining read. And then I'm currently reading a book which I've completely forgotten the name of. So bear with me while I unlock my laptop and tell you what it is, because it's on my Kindle. So it is Syndol by Orrie Hitt. So this is a trashy book originally published in 1959. So Orrie Hitt was a very prolific writer of paperback porn, basically, and crime novels. And some of his stuff is available on Kindle Unlimited. This is one I picked up on Kindle Unlimited a little while ago. And at some point during last night, when I was awake in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, I needed something to read, so I thought I would start something on my Kindle, because it's just easier to read in bed. And I started this, and it's really good so far. So it's about this young woman in a small town who's kind of struggling to make ends meet, and is obviously going to get pulled into dodgy stuff. She's trying to resist it at the moment. But when I looked it up on Goodreads, and I think I don't know if this is like the original blurb, but it says the only way Cherry could get places was by going bad, and Cherry wanted to get places. A novel which focuses in on the hot picture racket. So it spoiled it for me a little bit, in that clearly she's going to get involved in the hot picture racket. But yeah, it is quite entertaining so far. It's not brilliantly written, but it's got enough going on to keep me interested. So that will be my final book for Vintage Week, which is what this week was, which I think I forgot to say at the start. So all the books I've talked about were published before 1980. I will then move into Anything Goes Week next week. So I've got a few things to read to tick things off the bingo card. And I forgot to say, so bingo card wise, so this ticks off the novelisation square from the bingo card, and this ticks off the book that cashes in on the moral panic square on the bingo card. So I will tick both of those off. So the week ahead, in Anything Goes Week, I'm going to read a book by Katie Price, the English glamour model. And it's not actually by her, but it's published under her name. It's by some poor ghostwriter who probably got paid peanuts to write it. So a romance novel by her, which I've completely forgotten the name of. I've got Savages by Shirley Conran, which I've been wanting to read for years, so looking forward to reading that. And I'm also going to be reading Thor by Brad something. I forgot his surname, apologies, I'm even less prepared than normal for this video. Which I'm reading for Kelly Hooked on Books' From Hell book club. So that's a book largely written from the perspective of a dog, a horror novel which is supposed to be pretty good actually, but I think it's probably a little bit trashy too. So I'm going to read that this week as well, and then we'll see. I've actually managed to read more books than I expected this week, and have fitted in a couple that I wasn't planning to read. So Shark Fighter I wasn't planning to read, Which I wasn't planning to read, and the Orrie Hitt book that I'm reading at the moment I wasn't planning to read. So yeah, it's been despite being away on holiday and that slowed me down a little bit. You get the travel time at the beginning and the end of a holiday, don't you, which allows you to catch up with your reading again. So yeah, good reading week, and very much looking forward to the Anything Goes week of Garb August, which starts on Monday. Although I'm probably going to start it today. So in terms of channel stuff then, so what have we had in the last week? So we have had my video where I unboxed 39 NASCAR romances, which people seem to have quite enjoyed, and I did quite enjoy filming it. Had my review of a 90s horror novel, Blackburn, by Brady Denton. We did Ask Criminology episode 3. I did the To Die For book tag. I did a boxing of the August box from the Abominable Book Club. And on last Sunday I did my life lessons, things I've learned about life from trashy books video, which again was quite fun to film. And the comments of that have been brilliant. People have come up with some really good life lessons that they've learned from trashy books. So as I said at the start, in the week ahead, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and put together this travel vlog, because that doesn't really involve me having to do any filming. It will just be just be editing clips I filmed when I was on holiday. So I'm going to try and do that. I will try and do a Sunday Bollocks video. So there's been a few videos that have gone up in the last week. Started, I think the first one was from Gina Stania, but Brian from Bookish did a really good video on the topic as well. So this is the discussion of different categories of literature, so highbrow, middlebrow, lowbrow, and talking about where does trash fit into that. So I think I will try and do a response video for that, although my brain isn't working, so we'll see how that goes. And then I might try and do a tag video, and I might try and do a review of Witch and Women's Barracks. If I feel up to it, I'll try and do a video of those. But as I say, on Monday you've got a pre-filmed book haul video going up, where at least my brain is kind of partly working. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I've just remembered I should be doing a random book from the shelves, but all the books are downstairs and I really can't be bothered to go and get one. And I meant to say at the start as well, apologies for the tremendously drab backdrop to today's video. So my office is still under construction. Carpet's being done on Monday, hopefully. And the bookcase I was going to order is now out of stock, so I need to find a different bookcase. But I can't film downstairs because my wife hasn't got COVID, so I'm trying to keep separate from her. So I'm staying upstairs, she's staying downstairs. So yeah, and I just couldn't be bothered to try and sort out an interesting backdrop for today. So apologies for that. Yes, and apologies for no random book from the shelves today because I just haven't got the energy. But yes, take care of yourselves. Don't catch COVID. It's not very nice. Hope you're reading good stuff. What do I normally say? Hope you're reading good stuff. Hope you're safe and well. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you've been reading for Garb August week 2. Let me know what you're going to be reading for week 3. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.